Alright, make a quick video for YouTube. Why is Anderson Silva the GOAT of MMA? He popped for steroids, lost some bad battles late in his career. Well, when you look at the entire career of a fighter, entertainer, athlete, whatever, as fans of the sport, um, we like to simply know what has been done by people. And especially if there are things that have been done that nobody else has quite done it, especially like a certain person. So, if we talk about Anderson Silva being a GOAT, we're only considering his run, the streak, his win streak in the UFC, and we are judging the quality of those victories. Now, in every championship fight, the champion and the fighter understands exactly what they have agreed to. This is for all the marbles. This is a championship. Everybody's bringing their A game. They're bringing everything that they are made of. And when you consider all that and then look at what Anderson Silva did in the highest profile moments, you can clearly see that this man was operating on a plane in his prime. A plane that perhaps no one else has ever been in. I'll point to you some specific things. You probably know a lot of these things already. But look at what he did to Forrest Griffin. Look at that fight. Forrest is not a bad fighter. Forrest is a great fighter. You know? But Anderson Silva made him look like a student. He knocked him out cold with a backwards moving counter jab. A backwards moving counter jab. Knocked Forrest out cold. Great shot, right? Well, you see that you saw how he set his little stance after, Forrest got a little tap on him, and was like, all right, you got me. Let me get real here. He set his little stance, waited, because he knew Forrest was going to come in. Forrest came in, and he fucking matrixed every fucking blow in real time, on the spot. I know this wasn't for a championship because it was 205, but look, it doesn't matter. This was a display of skill. And look, man, a fight can go a lot of different ways, right? Like, in normal fights, it's two motherfuckers fighting it out, right? It's dirty, it's nasty, it's a war of attrition, you know? Anderson Silva would go in the goddamn cage, and it was a fight too, but he would execute things so cleanly that just demonstrated that his vision, his ability to see what's coming, the quickness at which he's able to react, and the effectiveness at which he's able to react to things in the highest profile moments against the best in the world. That's the thing. So now you go to a fight like Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort is a very dangerous man. And him and Anderson were teammates when Vitor decided to challenge for the title. Because it was supposedly a team rule, right? Like, you don't go against your teammates. But Vitor wanted to. So, what happened? What happened? Well, the two men who prepared for this championship fight entered that cage. And the round did not exceed one. Why? What happened? Well, they went in on each other. There was a couple exchanges. Vitor got on top of Anderson for a second, but Anderson, very slippery, scrambled out and ended back up in a standing position. Now from here, things could have gone any kind of way. But what happened? What happened is Anderson Silva executed in that moment, live, on the spot, in a championship match, one of the most iconic front kicks, head kick KOs in the history of MMA. You could put it in MMA, not just UFC. That image of him kicking Belfort is iconic. But a hater's just going to say it was a lucky blow. Okay. How about the Okami fight? Yushin Okami, a guy that he lost due to a disqualification years prior because he used an illegal head strike from the ground with his foot. And Anderson lost that fight for that reason. That was against the rules. So this fight against Okami in the UFC was redemption for him. Redemption for that loss. Atonement, right? Fight could have gone any kind of way. Two men entering the cage, blood, breathing air. Anything can happen. When Anderson finally got comfortable, I think it was the second round, he started doing that hands dropping shit that got him caught later. But we're talking about his prime, what he was capable of when he was in the peak condition of everything he could be. He dropped his hands in the moment, live, against this guy. And it was only a few seconds later that domination, total domination, was affected and executed upon this man. Anderson started landing clean shots from a hands drop position on Okami. Okami couldn't take it. He fell. Anderson followed up. Fight's over. Anderson win. Now let's talk about Chael Sonnen 1, because this is the fight that everyone says exposed Anderson Silva, because he got his ass beat and handed to him for 5 complete rounds, but Anderson pulls out the victory in the final 2 minutes of the bout. True champion shit. What it is with this fight is you've got to consider the context of a few things. First of all, you realize that Chael was found to have had testosterone levels like 17 times beyond like what's either normal or acceptable range. Whatever it is, he had extremely high elevated testosterone levels. And this is a fight that Anderson almost had to pull out of because of legitimate injuries to his rib cage. And so you're taking a man that's jacked up on testosterone. Now let's give Chael Sonnen some credit, because with all the context considered and everything, Chael Sonnen brought it that night, okay? He brought it. He came into the cage and asserted dominance on Anderson Silva. Was able to take him down, keep him down, and beat his ass. Let's take Anderson Silva's side of this now. You're a man that almost could have pulled out a fight because your damn ribs, right? Like, how much does that affect when your fucking ribs are cracked, broken, whatever it is? It's going to affect everything, right? Like, every damn near fucking movement you make goes through your ribs in one way or another, especially with another strong, aggressive man grabbing against you, hitting all kinds of shit, right? And what Anderson did was he stayed in the fight, even though he was getting his ass beat. The rules say he had 5 rounds to win the fight, and winning can be achieved through a finish. And so by our rules of the sport, Anderson Silva is the man that won that fight against all the odds. And that is the one outlier in that entire run, because when he faced Chael Sonnen again, Chael Sonnen, yes, he had an effective first round, all true. Could be he just caught Anderson with his energy and rush because perhaps Anderson, he started a bit slow. Perhaps he wanted to gauge. He wanted to, you know, whatever. When the second round rolls around, what happens? Well, you can draw it up for whatever reason, but Chael decided to do a spinning elbow or whatever and tripped and fell, and Anderson capitalized. And there were no more moments for Chael Sonnen in that fight. There was no round 3, there was no round 4, there was no round 5. It was not reminiscent of the first fight by any means. And I think that's more like what a normal fight between an Anderson Silva and a Chael Sonnen would look like. You just come to realize that Anderson Silva had extensive skill sets in a myriad of ways. He had that deadly Muay Thai clinch he used against Franklin, and these other guys he fought, Marcourt and one of the other earlier guys that he fought that missed weight. he made light fucking work of them, bro. Like it wasn't a fight like, oh, it's close, somebody could win it. No, it looked like the fucking master was in the room with some guys that were still on their journey, right? Like, that's what it looked like, because that's what he did to these guys. He'd catch a kick and then effect the end of the fight. He will finish you. He will punish you in a deadly way. So, beat Dan Henderson, okay? Another one of the best in the world, all right? Very accomplished, top competition. Beat him. He beat, who else did he beat? He beat, the late Stephan Bonner, of course, rest in peace. But again, I mean, that match is not even, Anderson Silva was like standing against the cage doing fucking clown shit. Like, come on, Bonner. Like, here I am, bro. I'm against a fucking cage. Like, fucking do something, bro. What the fuck you got, bro? I'm ready. Bring it. And it wasn't too much time later, Anderson delivered a huge knee that put Bonner out. It put him out. It would put any man out, right? To that part of your stomach. Jesus Christ, And so, when he fought Weidman, now you gotta realize at this point, Anderson had been champion for, 7 years at this point? 7 years as a champion. You know what I mean? And you don't think someone's gonna lose their edge? What do you think if Khabib Nurmagomedov would have defended his title a number of times, whatever, but over 7 years? You think Khabib would just win every single fight? And I mean, continues to compete after that 7 years. You're saying, like, come on, man, you gotta be real. And see, when you talk about the GOAT conversation, everyone's got their picks. I understand the reasoning behind every one of them. The obvious ones are John Jones and GSP. John Jones is the GOAT of MMA, but I like Anderson better because Anderson was a respectable champion. And he wasn't freakishly framed. He was not defeating people simply because he was biologically gifted. And I'm not saying that's John Jones in a nutshell or anything, but that is a huge factor in John Jones' success. He's gifted, man. you gotta have guys like Alexander Gustafsson or Dominic Reyes, guys with builds like that can challenge Jones straight up where he is skill wise, that he's not getting an advantage just because of his body. Anderson Silva didn't necessarily have those advantages. I do think he had an advantageous frame. He was long, in general as a man, in his arms and legs, but it's nothing crazy, right? Like he's just a man, that might be built pretty good for the sport of MMA, but he's just a man, right? But the things he would do, the way that he destroyed the top competition when they came in prepared to do everything, and he definitively finished the fight. Like I'm trying to remember any of those fights that were decisions. I think the Damian Maya one, the one with the embarrassing taunting, like a master sensei telling his student, like, bro, come to my level, bro. You're not here. Let's go. I'm fucking ready. Let's go. Damn it. We're here. Fucking do it. Bring it to me. Right? Like, that's how I see Anderson Silva's posing in that fight, right? But in general, Anderson didn't let things go to a damn decision. He fucking finished you. He finished you. He finished Lieben in a minute. He finished Franklin twice. He finished Hendo. He finished Chael twice. He finished Vitor. He finished Okami. He finished Bonner. But he's not the GOAT. And look, when he fought Weidman won that fight. I personally believe Anderson was the level you gotta be at to be the top. I think Anderson was over it by that point, man. He was talking in a class after his loss to Weidman, and he mentioned how he had gotten flat-footed in them moments. Flat-footed. And he mentioned that you shouldn't do that, right? Like, never should you become flat-footed in there, because that's the type of shit that can happen. For me, to see Anderson Silva become this way, to become flat-footed, I give credit to Weidman. He brought it, and he won the fight in spectacular fashion. All credit. I do think that was already, though, and Anderson, that was, you've been on top so long. You've been winning so long. You've done it. Not just 1 year, but years and years and years. And you're just supposed to still keep going in there against the top competition and just being invincible or some shit, right? Like, that's not realistic. And after he lost to Weidman, I think everybody knows we never saw the same Anderson Silva again. I never saw, after that Weidman loss, an Anderson Silva that was with that level of hunger, that level of precision, that level of drive. It could be due to age, it could be due to experience, it could be due to the things I was talking about, like perhaps he just was tired. And there's a lot of folks that will say I'm just making excuses for him, and I have to accept perhaps that's a fair argument. I'm just giving my opinion. In my opinion, I think Anderson is literally that type of respectful guy. In those later years, I just feel like he was going into fights. I seen someone say it on YouTube, like with Izzy, that Izzy wanted to fight him, not even really to finish or beat him, but just to trade blows with one of your legends, right? Anderson Silva's that type of guy. He'll give you that moment. He'll sign up for the fight, agree to the whole thing. Do the motions, do everything, go in there, give you a fight, show you some skills, take you around, get hit some. It's a fight. That's what happens. Because Anderson has done that many times now. And the fact that he beat what's his name in boxing? What was it? Chavez Jr. or something? He put on an impressive display in that fight. Now look at the Jake Paul fight. Anderson's like 47. Anderson is 47 going into that fight. When he exits the fight after being beaten, he says, Jake earned that victory. Jake won. He fought well. This is the kind of guy Anderson is, man. He's humble. He's respectful. He'll sacrifice just to give back. He already had his time. You know what I mean? He already had his time. So, anyway, this is just my arguments for why I think Anderson Silva is the GOAT. I didn't touch on GSP. GSP was a very dominant fighter in all aspects, wrestling, striking. But I think Anderson has the edge because in Anderson's run, he didn't lose in the middle of it. And GSP did. GSP lost in the middle of his run and lost clean to Matt Serra. And so it's these little things for me that make the difference. Now, some people will argue Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson, no one can deny, is a very talented fighter, extremely talented. Has also done things we've never seen before. There's nothing you can say that won't sound disparaging towards Demetrius Johnson if you try to argue that he's not the GOAT. Because, he had the win streak in the UFC, very dominant champion of his division. Went to one, I believe, correct, and began dominating there. I'm gonna just say this: if you think DJ's the GOAT, I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm just gonna let you put your argument forth, and I would hope that you would bring these other fighters into it, like the Anderson, the John Jones, the GSP, and say why DJ is better than them. At least explain it in the context. But I'm not going to disparage you because you believe such a thing. I've also heard other people give Jose Aldo a ton of credit for his run and what he did. There are a few out there that will call him the GOAT. Aldo deserves his respect because he did it in a time that was, Conor McGregor hadn't come around yet, so, the level that the UFC was operating at and the WEC, he showed that, in an era where fighters were fighters, man, the media shit and the entertainment shit was already a part of it, but, regardless, Jose reigned for a long time and dominantly, and, same thing. If you make an argument for him, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you, but I would just like to hear, in comparison to the others, why you think, when I, again, as I've said for the whole video, when I look at Anderson, it's a quality to the things he did in the highest profile moments. I hate to bring the weight into it, but I think we all agree that in the times Anderson reigned and dominated, more of the fighting world was concentrated around 155 and up. But especially that middleweight division, you know, stacked, you know, tough division, tough individuals. And that's just for me, you know, that's how I see it. So I just want to put this out there because I'm all the time claiming that Anderson's the GOAT. And this GOAT conversation, it's just one of those conversations that will go on forever, as it should. It will never die, and people will never have a shortage of strongly felt opinions on the matter. And a lot of times it's hard. It shouldn't be hard, but it's hard to get points in on Anderson edgewise with these people out here, just for whatever reason. There's a lot of people that think that because he popped for steroids, you know, after he fucking snapped his shin in two. Any of you ever done that? I have actually, can you see my scar? I have actually broken my shin as well, and it may have been the worst injury of my life. I know what it's like to break a shin. I understand the recovery that it can take. It's just because I recovered, to recover and then go back into professional competition, you know, what the fuck do you expect, man? What do you expect, right? Like, it's a broken fucking shin. This is fucking serious. That some bitch may never be the same again. In fact, it won't. So, you know, steroids are wrong and shit. The banned ones are. To me, it doesn't stop Anderson from being a GOAT. He never popped while on the run, on the street. Prime Anderson never popped. Some mention his losses later in his career as evidence that he's not the GOAT because he just, I don't know, the talent was there and now it's not, and you can't be the GOAT if it's like that. When we have a John Jones around here that comes back after 3 years and sends Cyril Gahn packing after 2-something minutes. So I understand what people are saying, but you know, I just think, you know, again, you know, people always talk about Khabib, he retired too early, what could have been. You know, there's a lot of people that say Khabib would have lost if he would have kept fighting. All I know is with Anderson, we got to see. Anderson kept fighting. And Anderson had been fighting professionally for a long time. You know, I don't understand how anybody moved as good as Anderson did, you know. GSP did a lot of great things. John Jones is gifted, has also did a lot of great things, but it's just my opinion. That level of dominance he displayed, not from his gifted frame, and how definitive his victories were for so long against all kinds of varied competition. Literally, how do you get better than that? What's better than that? I don't know. So that's my personal GOAT. My video has a comment section. Please comment and share whatever the hell you think, whatever comment you'd like to leave. I love open discussion. I love polite discussion. I don't like toxic, heated fire matches of, you know, arguing, but I like to just talk about these things I am a big fan of MMA, mostly the UFC, but I enjoy combat sports in general. Um, but so, anyways, now I extend this discussion to you all. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you liked.